In this video, I'm going to talk to you about shame and how to let it go. Hey guys, it's Abby and welcome back to another video. So to start with, we need to talk about what shame is. Shame is basically when you don't meet your own internal standard system. So if you perform a way in work and in your mind you fail or you fall short or you act in a way that doesn't meet your own standards, you can feel ashamed. Now, I think it's important to differentiate right now the difference between shame and guilt. Shame, when you do something that you perceive as bad or that someone tells you is bad and you agree, you feel you are bad. You're whole. It's bad. Now, guilt, you can do something where you feel bad about or someone tells you it's bad and you agree and you think that that thing you did was bad. Completely different thing. Guilt being something that you did, an action was wrong or bad perceived by you. And shame being you are bad because of what you did. Your entire being is bad. So I'd like to rewind a bit and see how this formed to give you a better understanding of how you can let this go. So why does shame even come up in the first place? The anatomy of shame. So when you are growing up, you're obviously unable to take care of yourself. When you're a baby, you can't feed yourself, you can't even change your clothes itself, you can't move. So you're very much reliant in your totality of your existence. Your very survival depends upon your basic culture, which is your family, your, whatever that looked like growing up for you. So a lot of times what happens and actually what does happen, it happens the entire time. This is how you come into survival. This is how you grow up. You are reliant upon them for basic food, clothing, shelter, also love and affection. So you're needing these things as a growing human being. So when they have their own standard of operation, what you have to do to get into that society, that culture, is you have to fit in. A lot of times you adopt, either consciously or subconsciously, their own standards so that you can be part of that unit. For instance, if you naturally love to dress really racy and sexy and, really show off maybe your physique, right? This can be male or female. You really are proud of your body and you find it beautiful to just show it off. And your family, they don't believe that, right? So you grow up in a house where you needed to be very modest. You needed to cover up. If it was a woman, wearing a one piece is the only thing that was acceptable. For a man, walking around with no shirt on was not acceptable. Those sorts of things, that idea. So if you naturally love to show off your body and just be free and, express yourself that way, but growing up, you grew up in a house of modesty, well, there's a clash. And so you're going to have to adopt their modesty so that you can fit in. Well, now, years later, when you're an adult and you have more freedom to choose what you want to do in the world, when you go out and maybe you're working out, right? And you're a man, you take your shirt off, or a woman. I mean, I'm not here to limit you, but you feel this it's something you naturally want to do. And there's a joy that comes out of it. At the same time, you fail to meet your internal standards, even though they were adopted from your family, even though those aren't your beliefs that you came into the world with, because that's not naturally who you are. You adopted that standard, and so you now fall short of that standard and you feel ashamed. And again, shame is, I did this thing, I took my shirt off to work out and, express myself that way, and now I feel like I'm wrong. Like I feel like I'm bad. That's another huge thing about shame, is you feel bad. Shame is the root of lack of self-esteem. So when you feel ashamed, you feel like you're bad, you feel like you're unworthy, you feel like you're unlovable. So all these things which you need as a basic thing in life, you feel like now you don't deserve them. You're not worthy. You've fallen short. You're a loser. And the laundry list goes, especially if you follow that shame tunnel deep, deep down there. Another example would be, excuse me, if growing up you really love to play a lot of jokes, right? You like do practical jokes, and you set things up, and you did pranks on people. You thought that was really fun. You love seeing humor in the world, and it just really brought you joy to be creative that way. And then in the end, all laugh with each other. Well, your family really took that personally, and they felt embarrassed when you do that. And so they said, no, that's not right. We don't embarrass people like that, because they didn't understand that you wanted to laugh with them and they thought you were laughing at them. So they've taught you that, bringing out your humor and having that in the world is a bad thing. So when you really want to do it, or when you go out in the world and you do it, you feel ashamed, you feel you're bad. So you have this internal conflict, this situation in which you want to naturally express in the world, and then you feel like, I'm bad, I can't be loved, So it is an epidemic, to say the least. I know I have several things that I have grown up and felt ashamed about, right? Where I have a basic belief system of how I want to express in the world, but in my immediate culture, my first culture, they weren't accepted. And there's no bad or good in this. It's just how it is. The thing that you need to do to get away from shame is to start understanding what is causing that. What belief is causing you to feel like you didn't meet a standard? So what you need to do is look at your beliefs of the nucleus of that. So for instance, in the first one where we talked about modesty, do you believe that it's wrong or bad for someone to show off their body in just an expressive way, right? In any way that it feels right for you? Do you feel that's bad? If you do, then you can choose to adopt that and choose, that other behavior. You basically get to make a choice. So if you say, okay, you know what, I'm going to look at this behavior, I'm going to say, you know what, I do agree with that. I do agree that that is something that I don't want to do. And you can choose to move towards that standard that you already have. And it sheds more light on, is this behavior actually something that I want to participate in? Or is this standard the one that I truly believe? Because you're basically at a crossroads and you're getting pulled back and forth. So when you start really turning it around and looking inside and seeing, okay, well, what is it that I truly want? The other way you can look at that is in the modesty example. If you think, oh, wow, is it wrong or bad or inappropriate for someone to show off their body, someone to work out with no shirt on? Is that bad? Do I believe that? And if you say, no, I don't, well, then you won't experience the shame anymore, because you say, no, I accept this. I don't have a belief any longer that this is bad. I'm going to choose to change and evolve myself and to let go of that. So now I can choose to be that who I am, that how I choose to express and live the reality that I want to feel. So that's where it comes from. Right now, anytime there's shame, you're at this crossroad and it's pulling you back and forth. And you're stuck there and you're feeling, I don't deserve this. I'm wrong. I, as a person, am bad. And that's not true. You really need to get in there and really discover what it is you really believe, so that you can have freedom and cut the ties of this shame. A lot of times we say shame, when people, and if you grew up in a Christian household, it's if you have to wait before you get married to have sex. And a lot of people don't really want to do that. They don't really feel that way. So there's a lot of people who will go out and meet somebody or start dating somebody, really fall in love with them, and then choose to have sex with them. And then they just feel shame and also guilt, that they are tied in there. But shame is the most damaging one, because it judges you as a person and your whole being as bad. And it is the judger, right? It is your own internal judgment system. And what we need to do to help you use your guidance, really, it should be less about judgment and more about guidance. So again, the way to get to the nucleus of this judgment system, which is hurting you, is to start disassembling it by picking apart the beliefs in which, that's what's forming this thing. The more beliefs that, you have, and again, there's two different beliefs. There's the conscious belief you have. You understand that that's what's going on in there, even if you have conflicting feelings. And there's the most intense, which is the subconscious. You're not even aware that you believe it. And it could be, I believe this thing and I'm going to hold true to it. And subconsciously, it's like, no, I don't really want that. And so you have these, sabotaging behaviors, which, it conflicts with what you feel you believe, because subconsciously, that's not really what you really believe. You have this other belief that you don't even know is there. So when you really start looking at the things that bring you the most shame, or the things in your life that bring you shame, if I were you, I would write down on a piece of paper, or on your phone or something, so your brain doesn't have to remember what you're writing down. You can literally kind of start releasing it by putting it out there. Your brain is more meant as a processing mechanism, not as a memory system. So when you write it down, you can start looking, okay, what would I have to believe if this were true? If it were bad for me to, do this thing, what would I have to believe? And just the same, what would I have to believe in order to have this behavior that is sabotaging me, that's going against my beliefs? So I really encourage you to start deconstructing these things that really have a lot of chains on you. And I use the word chains because you are a prisoner to these. You have a belief. You have this standard that is not your own. And it's ruling your life. When you do the things you kind of really want to do in a lot of these situations, you judge yourself so hard, you find more misery than pleasure out of anything that you've done. So it really limits you in what you can experience in life. So as you deconstruct these things, you'll start to break the chains and free yourself so that you can choose to have the life that you prefer to have. It's as simple as that. No, it's not easy. Shame is an incredibly powerful thing, and it really can get its hands around you and dig in deep. A lot of people out there in the world today, especially in the American culture, experience excessive shame, habitual shame. They're living a life that basically goes from one shame to another shame to another shame. Brene Brown calls these the shame gremlins. And I'm so glad that she's brought this up to the mainstream, because I think it is so liberating and so important for people to be able to unroot these poisonous thoughts, these things that don't allow us to really be ourselves, and really limit the connection we can have with other people, because we don't have that intimacy. We don't allow them to really see inside of us, because if you are full of shame, you're going to want to completely be defensive. You don't want anybody to see inside, because you don't feel good enough. You don't feel like you are complete. You feel like you're some sort of, defect, right? And that's not true. You just need to start looking in there and pulling out the parts that don't make sense, that you adopted at the time as a child so that you could fit in with your first culture. And now you can choose to do something else. And especially too, as I live in the United States, so we have, that society of standards and beliefs. So it goes a lot of different ways. It can be your family, it can be your workplace, it can be society at large. There's all kinds of different structures of belief and standards. And you have to ask yourself, do you believe those things? If you do, you can choose to stop the other behavior that conflicts with it. No shame. If you believe, you know what? No, that's not my standard. That's a standard that I had adopted, and I'm going to now give it back. And you are free to do that. And now you can choose the behavior that actually makes you happy and it brings you joy in life. And then again, you'll break away from shame because you won't have that conflict. So I really encourage you to write these down, especially the ones that really make you feel bad as a person. Write the things down and start thinking about what it is in you that has that conflict. What is the one thing you think, and what is the standard that you are used to upholding? Because you have adopted them, and you are free to give those back. Those are no longer yours. You do not have to adopt it for life. It helped you at the time. It helped you with your survival. It helped to get you where you are now. So you can also thank that belief, because it was very powerful and it helped you. And now you're going to choose to let it go and adopt something new. Ideally in life, it's a perpetual cycle of this, where you free yourself from all of those things that limit you and continue to find things and beliefs that to help you get higher and higher in awareness and help you have more and more happiness in life and live a life that you really, really prefer to live. So Thank you so much for watching another video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please click the like button. That really helps to get the information out there to more people. Please comment if you found this enjoyable, or if you have any questions. Share it with those you think that this could help, and hit subscribe and the bell notification, which will let you know as soon as I release another video, which is every single day. So until the next time, I'll see you then.